might put the cat amongst the pigeons, to use an old phrase. What is it about? Well, it's about money, which is always controversial to talk about, and it's about ethnicity, which is always really controversial to talk about. So a study has been released, or figures have been released. Official government statistics, don't shoot the messenger. These are from the Office for National Statistics. So before I discuss these with you, I'm just going to put up a couple of slides so you can see what they are and what they're about and what we're going to discuss. So just have a quick look at these. So here's the first slide. So just have a read of what that says. The net fiscal position by ethnic group for the year 2023-2024. This is the mean average contribution to the country per household, divided into 4 groups. 5 groups actually: white, Asian, black, other and mixed. And then I'll also show you the next slide. Essentially the same details, although this one only shows the other groups, if you like, the external groups. So let me just come back and discuss those with you. Now, I'm not trying to cause trouble here. Those are official ONS statistics. What do they show? Well, they show that of those 5 groups that were named, which is white, Asian, black, mixed, and other, not quite sure what other is, maybe that's sort of South American, Central American, not really sure what that could be. 4 of those groups are a net drain on the economy by quite some significant chunk as well, between £4,000 and £5,500 per household drain on the exchequer, drain on the economy. The only ethnic group that contributes as an average, I'm not saying this is everyone, please get this into your head, this doesn't mean that it's all black people, all Asian people, all Chinese people, whatever. Of course it's not. There are loads and loads, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people within all of those groups that do fabulous jobs, that are fabulous people, that pay their way in everything they do. This is an average taken across a whole demographic. So the only group that has a whole average across the entire demographic that contributes on average per household in this country are white people, to the tune of about £1,444, I think it was, per household. All of the others take more money out of the exchequer, more money out of GDP, more money out of the national pot than they put in. Quite a lot more as well. As I say, between £4,000 and £5,500 per household. Now at the moment, that means we're just about still keeping our head above water, and the reason for that is that we are still predominantly a white country, and the majority population are white, and therefore the numbers sort of balance, although not to the extent that it's good enough, because we're now borrowing £140 billion a year. The problem is the demographics are changing, and they are changing very, very, very fast. And they're going the wrong way, which means that those finances, if the averages continue across all of those groups, are going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And so when people like the Greens and the harder left versions of the Labour Party want to increase taxes on the wealthy, they're actually increasing taxes on the small proportion, predominantly, of the population that contribute and that pay. And what happens is you're driving them elsewhere. They're going to live in France or Spain or Italy or the USA, or buggering off to Australia or New Zealand or wherever it might be. They've had enough and they're leaving. And when you do that, you leave behind the people that don't contribute. And as I say, I have to reiterate the point, I am not slating everyone within those groups. This is not a personal thing. Statistics and demographics don't work that way. We've got 70 odd million people officially in this country. Unofficially, it might be 80 million. And so this is an average across all of those people. But these stats don't lie. The groups are not contributing, demographically speaking. The only one that is are white people. And they're the people that seem to be most under attack. They are the proportion of the population that is shrinking. I did a video, I think probably 2 to 3 weeks or so now, about demographic change, not just in the UK, but across the entire planet. And the proportion of the white population across the entire planet is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. It's gone from 30% to roughly 50% in 100 years. And that's being replicated in the UK. And to sort of phrase it in common terms, if they're the only people paying the bills, we're in trouble. So what do you do about that? Well, there's only a couple of things you can do. You either find a way, force a way, make a way where the other groups start to contribute and start to contribute more and start to up their contribution, or you stop those white people fleeing, you stop white flight, you find a way to incentivize them to stay in the country, whether that's lower taxes, whether it's reducing immigration. You have to readdress that balance. You have to rebalance what's going on in the country. And I listen, I know as I'm talking, as I'm making this video, I can just sense all the names I'm going to get called. I can sense the criticism. I can sense what people are going to say about me. But these are not my stats. I didn't make these up. I didn't crunch some numbers and come up with these figures. I didn't make this up off the top of my head. These are ONS figures.